Jon Bellion has been one of my biggest inspirations in music. I love his songs, but I especially love watching him make music. And that inspired me to create a song inspired by the man, the myth, the legend himself, Jon Bellion. So here's what happened. In his music, Jon tends to use very simple yet extremely effective pop chords as the backbones of his songs. So, inspired by the simplicity of his chord patterns, I came up with the following progression. And this progression basically uses the four most common pop chords: the 4, the 1, the 5, and the 6. Now, obviously these chords are used in a lot of different songs, so we want to do something to make them stand out. And this is where I got the idea of using a choir for the intro of the song, which is not uncommon for a Bellion song. And I felt for an intro this would set a very cool, atmospheric and emotional mood. Now, as you may be able to tell, we're not playing full chords yet. We're actually playing 2 perfect fifths, a major third, and this chord. And the latter actually plays a major second interval, which is this B on top of the bass note, which is this A. And this creates some nice tension, especially if we compare it to the alternatives we could have used, which could have been a minor third, or for example, a perfect fifth. Like, there's just something about using this B here, a certain emotion that sounds very nice, and that also transitions back to the initial C really well. So then I got the idea of using my voice as an instrument to hum something on top of this, which ended up sounding like this. So as our chords are moving from one chord to the other, this note stays the same, which creates some sense of stability. And what makes this particular sound so cool is the fact that it almost sounds half robotic, half human, thanks to this plugin called Vocal Bender by Waves. Which I think adds a nice touch to our choir chords. Now, as I was thinking about the intro, I felt let's start revealing more and more of our chords, like this. And because Jon tends to like using strings in his songs, I thought it would be cool to introduce some strings. So I have these strings from the Session Strings Pro 2 library in Contact that softly come in above our choir. And that's when I started humming some more and ended up with the following bass notes. So along with the vinyl crackle effect and this free-lapse bass guitar playing a higher octave, I felt our intro definitely made for a strong beginning, almost like a symphony. But of course, we needed to introduce some energy at one point, and I felt the start of the verse was that point. It was time to get some drums down. Now, there's a particular bounce to Jon's drum beats. They have a lot of character, imperfections, and the drum samples typically sound very large, impactful, and often distorted. So before playing you the loop I ended up with, let me play you the individual drum sounds I found on Splice to give you an insight into the sound selection. And with these samples, I came up with the following drum loop. So in this beat, the groove, this offbeat bounce is key, which you can tell especially once we move all the off-grid notes back to their original, perfectly quantized states. And let's now move them back to their off-grid positions. So let's see what this beat sounds like together with the other elements. Now, to make this section sound a bit more solid, I added this Cinematic Studio Strings ensemble patch as a chord layer. Which makes quite a bit of difference in terms of how large and rich the verse sounds relative to the intro. Now, I tend to like changing something or introducing a new element every 4 bars. So after 4 bars in our verse, I am introducing the following top melody, if you will, on the string chords, just to make things more interesting and emotional. And I'm also introducing this groovy bass line played on my beloved Rickenbacker bass. Which owes its gritty character to this wide stereo bass preset from the Guitar Rig effect plugin. Also, to help introduce the new top melody and bass line within the verse, I added the following kick impact effect, which I then also decided to add halfway within the intro together with 2 of our other drum samples, creating this mid-intro fill. So as we were reaching the end of our 8-bar verse section, I was wondering, how can we transition into the pre-chorus in a creative but rather unconventional way? And I figured, let's use my voice to create a screaming uplifter. Now, to make this sound cooler, I pitched it down, I added some saturation, and I used this free effect plugin called Pancake, which makes the sound pan left and right really fast to create some movement. Which resulted in the following ending of our verse. Now, as all this tension was beginning to build up, I felt, why not confuse that anticipation by taking away all the elements in the next section, the pre-chorus. And that's exactly what I did. But I first made the ending of our verse even more dramatic by creating a tape stop effect using the Shaperbox plugin. Okay, so as I was saying, I wanted to take away all the elements in the pre, and I decided let's only use a piano here. And that's when I remembered I still had this Maverick piano inside the project from getting down the initial chords. So I came up with the following alternate chord progression for the pre. But I felt this part sounded a bit empty, so I added the following strings playing a very high E. And after 4 bars of just piano, strings and our final crackle effect, I felt it would be good to pick up the energy again as we're building toward the chorus by reintroducing our choir and strings playing the chords. As well as by adding this really muffled sounding filtered kick playing a 4 on the floor pattern to drive the tension. And finally, to finish this section, I added these cool glitch and impact effects right before moving to the second half of the pre. I also added our scream uplifter and the same glitch effect to the very ending of our pre. And lastly, I made this fill consisting of our hi-hat, our snare and our tom samples as a final stepping stone to the next section, our chorus. Okay, so the chorus. In his song Guillotine, Jon really keeps things minimal to let the bass line take control, allowing a ton of space for the vocal, which also provides a very cool contrast relative to the song's rich and full-sounding preceding sections. So I wanted to try something similar, and the first thing I did was reusing the drum groove and glitch effect from before. Super minimal, I know, so it was time for some bass, but I wanted to do something special here. And this big boomy kick playing on every downbeat inspired me to open my beloved Sublab plugin and accentuate these big kick hits with a very boomy 808, playing the bass notes of the original chord progression. So I felt this was cool, but not cool enough yet, and that's when I decided to add the following pitch bend automation clips. Now, honestly, I felt this was getting pretty cool, but I just knew we needed some real bass. So I reopened the Scarby Rickenbacker bass guitar from before, and I ended up finding the following very sparse yet groovy bass line, playing in the pockets of the drums and the 808s. Okay, now that's what I was talking about, but of course we want to keep the listener intrigued, so after 4 bars of this minimal anti-drop, as Charlie Puth would call it,
and then I don't give them the drop, I give them the anti-drop.
We're adding back my vocal humming as well as the strings from before, but to get the strings to make more of an impact, they play a slightly different rhythm, which gives everything a really nice groove and provides a cool way to end our chorus. And that's it. Let me know in the comments below if you think I should finish this song. Also, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel to become part of our community of musicians and music lovers. And with that said, let's now listen to the final result of today's Jon Bellion inspired song idea.